another time with me. All right, we've been here for the last 3 days talking about all we can do or what we can do to help children begin to lead themselves, what we can do to help children begin to set those goals and learn to smash the goals. Today we're going to be talking about another interesting topic, and this time we're looking at leadership is built at home. Yes, leaders are made from home. This is such a profound realization that every parent must take into account. I beg you, our children are not going to be made leaders in their schools. They're not going to be made leaders in the boardroom. They're not going to be made leaders on those stages, pulpits, or anywhere else. Children are first going to be made leaders because leaders are formed at home through daily choices, habits, and the values that we build in our children. My name is Maribeth Chima, and I am the founder of the Parenting Through Mentorship Academy and PTM Resources. And oh, yes, I am the super proud matron of the Mastermind Circle, a mentorship and accountability group that we run for young children and, of course, children who want to be the best version of themselves. Children whose parents are intentional enough to guide them and to support them to be the best version of themselves. So, if you are a parent and you have a friend, a sister, a colleague, or someone who is raising children between the ages of 5 and 10, then you need to be here. Yes, and invite your friends. And of course, why don't you go ahead and let them know that there is a lot that they can gain from just being a part of the conversation when we come on board. All right, children need boundaries. Children need environments where they are growing and they are building habits. Leaders are not made on stages, as I said. They are not made during rallies. They are not made in boardrooms. They are not even made in the classrooms. Leaders are made from home or at home through daily choices, daily habits, and the values that we pass on. Above all, leaders are made through what is modeled to them daily by their handlers, their parents, most especially as their primary caregivers. When parents create the right environment in their homes, when as parents we create the right environment in our homes where positive habits are nurtured and values are passed on, when we create environments where children are guided to begin to make informed choices that will benefit them and the people around them, when we raise children who are empathetic, who are constantly not just thinking of what serves them, but are in the space where they are already thinking of what they can do to be a blessing to the people around them. When we do this, then we are already sowing seeds of leadership in our children. When we help children learn to solve the problems, the little problems that they see in their environment, then I say again, seeds of leadership are being sowed in that kind of child or in children like this. Are you following us on YouTube? If you're watching us on YouTube right now, why don't you go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can subscribe to our channel and also use the bell or hit the bell button there. So every time we go live, you get a notification to be a part of the conversation. And yes, if you are on Facebook, you can also follow us on our Facebook page. All right. Maribeth Acho Chima. All right. Or our Parenting Through Mentorship community. All right. If you're on Instagram, we are also on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram at Parenting Through Mentorship with Maribeth Chima. Yeah. So any of these platforms, you can, follow us and join in the conversation or garner from the insights that we share on parenting, especially if you are a parent of a young child, children between ages 0 and 10. We've got you. Okay. Now we're going to be looking at 5 areas, right, or 5 things that we want to focus on, right, if we are raising children who will become leaders. Yes, if you want to raise children who will become leaders, if you want to raise children who will take the front stage and not just be backbenchers or people who are waiting to be told what to do at all times. It starts with waiting for us to tell them what to do in our homes. Then they go to school and they wait for their teachers to tell them what to do. And then they move from their teachers, waiting for their peers to tell them what to do. And before you know it, you have a child who cannot take initiative. Before you know it, you have a child who is constantly waiting to be led, constantly waiting to be directed, constantly waiting to be told what to do. These are the ones who are open to being influenced by all kinds of negative influences. And you don't want to do that, especially in today's world where there are too many ideas and too many negative ideas and negative influences out there. So you want to raise a child who sees themselves as leaders. You want to raise a child who embodies the quality of a true leader, so that yes, they can lead others. Lead others well, and not just, influencing people as we have right now. All right, so let's look at those 5 things that are important. Leadership begin with the child leading themselves. Okay, so that's where it starts. It starts with the child being able to lead themselves. When we raise children, or when we raise children in our homes, right, to embody self-control. When we raise children who are able to control themselves, we raise children who are able to make efforts consistently. They may not be perfect, they may not get it right, but these are children who can lead themselves. They can control themselves. These are children who can start whatever they have to do and then make the efforts, right? Effort is so important, right? If you are raising children who will be leaders, then we have to raise them to be people who understand and who appreciate, right, and know how to make efforts. And of course, if your child is making efforts, in those efforts, if you're not catching them doing right, then you are the one that is stifling the child and stopping the child from developing those leadership qualities that are possible. So we must raise them. Okay, it begins with having children who can lead themselves, right, with self-control, children who can make effort every time they are given the opportunity. All right, and then children, of course, who can begin and stay through an activity or a task, seeing it through to the end. Okay, this can be strengthened in our homes by having the children do chores, right? How do you build this? How can you strengthen this in your home? It begins with having your children do chores at home. Yes, give the children chores to do. They are age appropriate chores for every age. So you want to get your children to start doing chores as early as possible. When people ask me, at what point should the child do chores? I say to them, the moment the child can use their limbs independently, meaning your child can now move with their legs and your child can now move their hands, right? And they can coordinate this, their limbs, basically. All right, so it starts with the smallest activities. Do you know that when your child plays and the child knows that at the end of every session they are supposed to pick their toys and put their toys in a designated place? That is it already. Your child is already doing chores. Do you know that when you have your child fill bottles, all right, fill bottles. I remember when our daughter was 2 and we needed to get her to start doing chores. What did I do? I turned off the hot part of the dispenser, and then of course she will fill out the bottle. that is already the child doing chores, if you know how much that would actually boost the child's confidence and how it would teach the child to be responsible, it will teach the child to have self-control. Now the child knows that there is a time that they need to do this particular activity. So you don't want to just leave it open-ended. You also want the child to understand that, okay, there is a time that this task is required. Whatever it is that you can put in there to help the child learn self-control, to help the child learn self-control, to take responsibility, and then of course to add some timeline, meaning there is a time for everything. You want to start teaching those small concepts through the activities that the children do at home. So based on your family dynamics, right, you want to teach the children based on your dynamics. So if your family is a family that is active in the evening, you're one of those families that in the morning everybody is getting all set to go to school, go to work, and all of that. So you don't want to use that time to help to have the child do these chores or activities. Now you want to preserve it, or you want to leave it for the evening. All right, that's me assuming that your family or your home is more active in the evening. So you want to put it in there so that the child knows that this is my responsibility, this is what I am supposed to do it, and all of that. So you want to lock that in. It doesn't matter. Even at 2, your child can begin to do chores, and you want to do that. So you want to raise children who can lead themselves, then give them chores. You want to raise themselves, then have them start and finish everything that they begin. All right, let them know that there is something like we finish everything that we start. All right, help them stay on task. They may not finish it at that particular time, but make sure they go back to it and they finish it. And as they grow older, then make them stay on task until they finish what it is that they start. Okay, help them set little goals. Right, do you know that when the child knows that, okay, I have to pack my toys into the right place, and store them away, that's the child setting a goal. Right at the beginning of the child's play, the child knows that, all right, before I finish, maybe the child has a set of puzzle, right, to build. It's set of puzzle to piece together, or building blocks to build. So you have a task for the day. You probably have a picture, right, from that too, and you're saying this is what we are building today. That's a goal already. So the child puts their mind or their focus to, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve at this point. That becomes a goal for the child. Now the child begins to think, how am I going to go about achieving this? Then the child begins to figure out how. That's the child solving problems. That's the child now staying on task and ensuring that they finish that task. That is you teaching the child staying power. So all of these things, the leadership qualities that our children need, they don't necessarily need to wait until they are board members. They don't necessarily need to wait until they go to leadership school for them to learn to be leaders. All right, it begins with you teaching this leadership quality through simple activities at home. All right, and it takes you knowing the principles behind this. Okay, and that's why we are here, to teach you how you can use small things, small activities in your home to help children achieve big milestones, right? And lock in principles that they need to become, the best version of themselves. So if you must lead others, you must lead yourself first. Very important. Number 2, when children have responsibilities and they are held accountable, right? So having responsibilities and staying accountable is another way that we raise our children in our homes to become leaders. Okay, that's another way. So this, I promise you, is the recipe. Sorry about that. I think I was getting a call. Right, having recipes. Sorry, I need to. I'm so sorry about that. All right, so having responsibilities and staying accountable is a recipe for raising confident children. Yes, it's a recipe for raising confident children, because When we do this, we are able to raise children who are resilient. We're able to raise children who are tenacious. We're able to raise children who are disciplined. Yes, when we give them responsibilities and we hold them accountable. All right, and these are all leadership qualities that every leader must have if they can if they will lead effectively. This can be taught right at home. How do we teach this at home? It is taught by assigning tasks to the children. All right, so you could wake up on a Saturday and you say, you know something, we want to clean the living, we want to clean the kitchen. All right, and then you say to one of the children, all right, the pantry, you go there and you are in charge of the pantry, do your thing. Now you have given the child a task, you have given the child an expectation or something, a task with an expectation, and so the child goes to work and the child is able to achieve. Now don't tell them what exactly, right? Or you don't give them blow by blow, SOPs necessarily. I'm sure you must have taught them this, but you can actually put the child there and give it to the child as a project and see how the child goes about it. Now that tells you how the child is able to navigate on their own and also gives you feedback, right, as per where the child is at. Now you can now come in based on that feedback and then teach the child what to do. This is very important, especially when the children move, from toddlers, right, to when they become about 7, 8, 9. You want to give them projects like this every now and then. All right. When you get your children to do their schoolwork at the right time, this is another way that you teach them responsibility and accountability. All right. Get them to create routines for themselves, right? Specific time where they do their homework, specific areas or specific designated place where they know that this particular place is a place where when I come, I am focused on school activities. All right. When they are much younger, you can allow them, learn as they want to learn, where they want to learn. But as they start growing older, you want to create a sense of organization. You want to create a sense of discipline. So that's where you now need that, workstation, right? As your children become 7, 8, 9, 10, you want to now create a workstation where they know that this is the designated area. When I come in here, right, I am focused, I am serious, and I can focus for 20 minutes at a stretch, take a break, come back, focus for another 30, like that. So you want to start teaching them control. You want to start teaching them discipline at this point. What you're doing, you are building self-control. You are building discipline in the child. You're teaching the child how to stay focused, how to be resilient, right? And how to be tenacious and even more. All right. So it's important that we know this. Okay. Responsibility is how resourceful people are birthed. All right. If you don't give children responsibilities, then you are not raising them to be resourceful. If you want to raise a resourceful child, you raise a resourceful teacher, then you must give them responsibilities and you must hold them accountable to see that they see those responsibilities through. Are you here with us? If you are here with me right now, you are watching. Why are you here alone? Why don't you take a minute right now and invite a friend that needs to be here? Share the link with somebody who needs to learn this. Okay, sometimes we're looking for the big things. Sometimes we're looking for the huge instructions, right? For us to parent. But a lot of times, especially if you are raising or you're parenting young children, a lot of the times the real thing that you need or the answers that you need are in small activities, right? And small tools that you can put. Number 3, if you want to raise a child, you want to raise children who will become effective leaders, you want to raise true leaders, then you must raise children who are empathetic, children who have empathy and honor for family. So it starts right in the family. You must watch your child show empathy in your home. You must see your child show empathy right, to their younger siblings, their older siblings. You must see them show honor for family, honor for themselves, for their siblings, for their parents. We must ensure that our children are learning along these lines in our homes if we are going to raise them to be true leaders. As we said, leaders are raised at home, not in the rally ground. Leaders are raised at home, not in the boardroom. They are raised at home, not in the classroom. And so, how do you know, or how do you ensure that you are raising a leader? You must pay attention to how your child treats their family, how you treat your family. Leadership is reflected in kindness, it is reflected in how we communicate, it is infected in how the child shows respect for themselves, their parents, and everyone around them. It is reflected in how honest the child is and how much empathy the child has for other people. So a true leader respects themselves and respects other people. And it starts from home. Kindness and all of these things should first be seen at home. How do we help our children build this? And how do we help our children develop this right at home? We need to teach them how to apologize when they are wrong. Teach them how to communicate. Okay, it begins with communication, being able to speak to people with kind words, being able to say no unapologetically, being able to say no without being disrespectful. So we teach our children how to say no, right, without being disrespectful, humbly and kindly, right, refusing refusing or saying you can't do this without feeling guilty. All right, so we must teach our children how to back down. Okay, we must teach our children how to back down when they are arguing and they see that the argument is going nowhere. In fact, teach them not to even bother with arguments. What points do you have? Lay out your points and let the next person lay out their points also. And of course, let them know where you agree with them and where you do not agree with them. There is no need to go into endless banters, arguing back and forth, right? Teach your children, right, how to do this, because what time does a leader have to sit down and be bantering back and forth? So if we're going to raise leaders, we have to teach them right at home how to communicate. We have to teach them right at home how to take a stance and how to deliver or how to present their stance without being argumentative. We have to teach them how to say no, right? How to say no without being disrespectful, how to respectfully say no to people, especially when something is not in line or does not align with their values. We must teach them how to stay honest in all situation. All right, let them put their values above, right, being loved. Let them put their values above being liked. All of these are qualities of true leaders that our children will have to learn right at home. It starts right there at home, right? We have to teach them also how to volunteer. So it starts at home. How do they stand in the gap for their siblings? How do they offer? Do you see them offer to help their siblings? Do you see them offer to do things at home? All right, just this evening, our daughter came back from school. I had picked her from school and we got home and she said to me, "Mommy, you look tired." I'm like, "Oh, well, I've been working all day." Right, but it's not like I'm exhausted, but I've been working all day. And then I asked her, "What would you like me to make for you?" Right, because I didn't come around to doing that, but I know I can rustle something in 5-10 minutes. So I asked her, "What would you like me to like put together for you? I can do something in 10 minutes." And she looks at me and said, "Don't bother, I'll do it myself." I'm like, No, you just got back from school." She said, "No, mommy, rest. I'll do it myself." All right. So when these are signs, right? These are signs that you see in your child, and you know that okay, the child is growing and the child child is imbibing, right, leadership qualities. When you have, when you have a child who says to you, don't worry, I got this. When you have a child who says to you many times, I'm in the kitchen with our 16-year-old son, and I'm like, okay, we need to, we're just finished and all of that. Let me join you. Let's clean up together and all that. And he says, don't worry, mommy, just go. I got this. All right, don't worry, mommy, go. I got this. And I'm like, no, you have to go to school tomorrow and I need you to round up early. And he's like, I can do this in 10 minutes. I can do this in 15 minutes. Is that too much? I'm like, okay, if it's 10 or 15 minutes, that's fine. Right. So when you see your children begin to, put out this kind of behavior, then you know that you're doing something good already. You know that you're doing something right. More like, you know that you're doing something right and that they're picking something right. Oh, I tell you this one. So there was this day we were at some a supermarket, right? We're at Ibano with the children, and of course we went to do some grocery shopping, and while we were waiting to pay, right, while we were waiting to pay, there was a man who was walking by with his daughter. He was carrying a child and he had a bag, right? So while he was carrying the daughter and the bag, the bag fell, right? The bag fell and things spilled, right? The way my both children, right, the way both of them just, as in, it was like reflex. The both of them just came around to it. Our daughter wanted to take the child from him, and then our son was already putting things and packing things together, and all of that. I was impressed. Like, I was really impressed. All right. So when we see, these things, when we see our children already, showing empathy, already, showing kindness, right? It's an indication that they are internalizing some of the things. They're internalizing the things that we are teaching them, right? So yes, you want to, and if for any reason there are scenes like this or scenarios like this, and you see your child does not respond, all right, you see your child does not respond in the appropriate way or in a kind way, then it gives you feedback also as per where the child is at, and you want to go back to the drawing board and reteach, model, and help the child learn these things. Very important. All right. So how our children, family, how they honor family, how they honor their parents, how they honor your requests, right? How they honor your request, how they say no to you, because it is okay for them to, respectfully, right, say no to you also, if it's something that is not, that it cannot attend to at that time. There is nothing wrong, right? You should leave that your relationship open for such things to happen, because if you don't do this, you will be raising children who are just yes people. You will be raising children that feel that provided it's an adult that wants something, you are obliged to make sure that you do it. Provided it's an adult that asks for something, you're obliged to. And so even when it isn't right, even when it is something that is harmful, right, you will see them struggling with morals, rather with what do you call it now? They'll be struggling with the moral of just saying no to an adult as opposed to their values, right? As opposed to upholding their values. So you want to ensure that your children are acting from a place of what is right per time, right? What is right per time? How much sacrifice can I make at this point? You don't want to teach them to give themselves endlessly, even when it is harmful to them or when it is highly inconveniencing. So you want to teach them the difference between sacrifice and, of course, being obliged to do things because you cannot say no. All right. Because when we do that, hypocrisy is, we're serving hypocrisy, right? When we teach them that they must say yes all the time, then we're serving hypocrisy. And of course, we're not allowing them express themselves, and we're not allowing them make informed choices or decisions, basically. So number 4, practice taking initiative, right? practice taking initiative and not just doing things only when they are told. So you want to pay attention. Is your child in that place where when they see something that needs to be attended to, they go ahead and attend to it, not waiting to be told? If your children, especially by the time they are 7, 8, 9, 10, they are in that place where they can't even tidy the living room when it is dirty, when they can't even see, they can't even distinguish between a tidy and an untidy place, all right, then it means that your child is not their situation awareness is not in the right place. So it means that situation awareness is a thing that your child is not learning, or your child hasn't mastered yet. So your child should be able to master their environment. Your child should be able to say when something is out of place. Organization, right? The child should be organized enough, right, to be able to see that, okay, this is a thing, this thing is not in its right place. So that's why when they are little, we teach them a thing for a place and a place for a thing. All right. So that's the whole idea. The whole idea is teaching children to be organized. So you teach them a thing for a place and a place for a thing. So every time a thing is not where it is meant to be, it means that it is not organized. It is your job to take it to where it's supposed to be. It's the same reason that you teach them clean up, everybody do your share. When they are done with their toys, you are teaching them a thing for a place and a place for a thing, meaning you're done with your chores, return the things where they are supposed to be. It's the same reason they come back from school and you're saying to them a thing for a place and a place for a thing, meaning your lunchbox goes to the right place, your bag goes to the right place. So if your children are sitting in that place where they come back, they dump their school bags in the living room, their shoes are in the kitchen, their lunchbox is in the bedroom, then you know that, okay, this is recipe for failure, right? And this is not a characteristic of a leader. So as a parent, if you want to raise children who will be true leaders, then you need to teach them to stay organized. You need to teach them to be aware of their environment. You need to teach them to to be aware. Situation awareness, you need to teach them all of that. So the children are able to say per time when something is not where it's supposed to be. They're able to say per time when something has been, something is not where it's meant to be, or when a situation is not the way that it should be. They should be able to tell the energy in the room. They should be able to tell, right, what is moved, what is shifted when the room is not the way it's meant to be. They should be able to tell when there is something that is missing in an environment, right, that they know. So all of these things very key. All right, so the last one we're going to be talking about today. And yes, how do you teach them, or how do you practice this in your home? All right, for kindness, you practice by teaching the children how to identify, right, how to identify when they have gone wrong and know how to apologize, right? How to step up, right, to volunteer or to offer to, do stuff, right, even without being told, basically. And you can do this by teaching them to volunteer, and in your social circles, right, you can teach them to volunteer in your social circles. Something as simple as going to help the neighbor to mow her lawn, or to walk her dog, or just simply ask when you see someone carrying a lot of bags, would you like me to help you? I'll take that for you if you don't mind, and all of that. These are ways that you're teaching them, how to show empathy, how to honor people, and how to do things without being told. All right. When we also teach them, you also teach them that they don't need to be perfect, right? When we teach them that they don't need to be perfect, that it's okay to make mistakes. And of course, even when we make mistakes, we can bounce back and go on and continue. All right. You're teaching them to practice. You're teaching them to take initiative. You're teaching them how to rise up from a fall. You're teaching them to take the initiative to try again. That's it. So this is how you help them practice right at home, even right now. And then the final one is home is the first leadership ground. Your home is your first leadership ground. So as a parent, you want to create a system in your home that trains your child as a leader first. So you see all those family meetings that we talk about, those family meetings, those are your pseudo or your the child's first encounter of the boardroom. That's your child's first encounter of that conference. That's your child's first encounter of that UN gathering. That's your child's first encounter, of that of that systematic, meeting or systematic process, basically, that leads to creating or coming up with policies, and all of that. So you want to create all of that in your home, right? As a first mention for your child, all right, as per what it is to be a leader. So you want to create the first encounter of that boardroom right in your home, right? And that's what we do through those family meetings, where we sit to the family meetings and daddy heads the meeting, and mommy is right there, and the children take the lead sometimes to lead the family meeting, and everyone gets to say something about what the week has been like, what the month has been like, what the day has been like, and then of course you bring conflicts, and we bring, the things that we didn't like throughout the week, and then you talk about it, and each person looks at, their different perspective, and you're able to see this person's perspective and all of that. That is you already teaching your child how to resolve conflicts, how to communicate with people, how to build their network, how to resolve issues, how to work in a team, how to resolve issues in a team, and all of that. You're also through the routines that you have in your home, all right, you're also teaching them, right, leadership right at home using your routines. You're teaching them that, of course, there is a system, there are SOPs, right, to the things that we do, right, in organizations, and all of that. You're teaching them to put systems in place. You're teaching them to recognize and to recognize systems and to work within the system. You're teaching them to respect the systems, right, that have been put in place, right? When you create routines in your home, all right, through shared values, you're teaching your children, right, about the mission, the vision, right, of, the establishments that they will run, the country, the policies, and all of that. So your home should be the first leadership ground that your child should encounter. And these are different ways that you can begin to put that in place. Guess what? We support parents to achieve all of this, right, through our Mastermind Circle program. So we run a mentorship and accountability program for young children. In the Mastermind system is a well-structured system where the children learn, right, every month there are themes. So we have our our themes for every month, and then through those themes, the children learn systems, they learn structures, and then of course they are given tasks that they have to see through and all of that. So are you a parent of a child between ages 5 and 10, and you want someone to partner with you? You want a system that can partner with you to begin to put all of these things in place to raise children or young children who are resourceful. You want to put all of these things in place to raise young children who would begin to internalize and imbibe these leadership qualities. Then the Mastermind is the place for you. We call the Mastermind a foundation ground. Yes, because what we do is we bring these qualities, or we bring these attributes, right, and we infuse them and put them into our curriculum, and we begin to teach the children precept upon precept, because we understand the ages of these children. So the Mastermind is tailored to meet the needs of these children. Our whole program, all right, is specific to this age of children. So that's why the Mastermind is the solid foundation that you want your child between 5 and 10 to be in, so that we can lock in this foundational skills, we can lock in this foundational requirements, all right, so by the time the children are leaving the Mastermind, they are already used to these things. They've already internalized these things. These things have become second nature, and it's very easy for them to throttle from there. So if you would like your child to be a part of what we are, this amazing community is a close-knit community where every child feels seen, heard, and a part of the system. All right. So if you want your child to be a part of this robust community, all right, then this is the perfect time, because our second and last cohort for the year 2024 26, right? For the year 2026 begins in 2 days. Yes, on Saturday, we begin a new cohort. We call it the foundation cohort. So you want to get your child on board right away. All right. At the end of this video, just check in the comment section. You will see all the details that you need to register your child to be a part of the mastermind circle. Right. I promise you, you will be glad you did. You want to raise a child, right, who would lead themselves today and, of course, become a leader as they grow older. You want to raise a child who will become a resourceful teenager. Then don't let this pass you by. Why don't you go ahead and seek that link right away and register your child today? Thank you for joining me in today's episode of raising our children to set goals and to achieve the goals. All right, that's what we do in the mastermind. We help them set these goals and achieve them. All right, because is built or is first taught at home and not in the rallies, in the classroom, in the boardroom, or anywhere else. Thank you for joining me again. Have a fantastic rest of the evening. And I will see you tomorrow for our final episode. Bye for now and see you tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Bye.